All right, you're going to start by going to page 428. This is the very beginning of chapter 6, and it's the Are You Ready? This is just a review. This should not be new information to you. Just a review of old standards that you learned in 4th and 5th grade, and maybe some from 2nd grade. All right. All right, so our first example, for example number 1, is multiply 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. It's mentioning that 5 is used as a factor 4 times, because remember that parts of a multiplication problem are called factors. So 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, all 4 of those 5s are factors to our multiplication problem. So 5 is used as a factor 4 times. So we're going to do 5 times 5. The way that I usually would work a problem out like this, and it's completely up to you, but I would group together this 5 times 5 and this 5 times 5, because I can do that very fast, right? What's 5 times 5? 25. What's 5 times 5? 25. So now I've simplified the problem to making it 25 times 25. Still not an easy problem, but a little bit quicker than having to do 5 times 5, which is 25, times 5, and then times 5 again. Now I can just do 25 times 25. So over here, I want you to write down 25 times 25, because I don't think any of you know your multiples of 25 to 25. So we're going to have to actually solve this out. So you should be writing this like I'm writing it. These are the kind of notes I'm going to be looking for whenever I'm grading your notes. So we're going to do 5 times 5, which is 25. Carry the 2. 5 times 2. Plus 2. Alright, now we're doing a little star here so we can indent 1. And we're going to do 2 times 5. 2 times 5? 10. We carry the 1. We can cross out the old 2 and make it a 1 now. 2 times 2. Plus 1. And we're going to add these together now. Our 5 plus nothing is 5. 2 plus 0 is 2. And 1 plus 5 is 6. So our final answer is 625. Which I shouldn't have circled with the color like that. 625. In a perfect world, we could actually see that. Alright, now we're looking at example number 2. We have find 3 and 7/8 minus 1 and 1/2. The first step here is that you have to know that you cannot subtract 3 and 7/8 and 1 and 1/2. Because what do we have to be able to subtract fractions? A common denominator. So let's write up here, common denominator. Okay, common denominator. Trust me, that's what that says. So when we're looking at denominators, we're looking at our 8 and our 2. And what would you say they share in common? What's the least common multiple between 8 and 2? 8. I mean, you could do 16, you could do 24, you can do a lot of numbers. But the smallest one and the best one to work with would be 8. So we're going to leave 3 and 7/8 because we already have our denominator of 8. Now for 1 and 1/2, the 1 is still there. That didn't change, but the 1/2, whoops. The 1/2, to make it into a denominator of 8, what do? Times what?
4.
Yeah, if I multiply the bottom times 4 to make it 8, then what I do the bottom? We do the top, and so we get 4/8, which you should know 4/8 is 1/2, right? Alright, so we're going to be doing 3 and 7/8 minus 1 and 4/8. We can subtract the fractions first. 7/8 minus 4/8 would be 3/8. And then 3 minus 1 is 2. Now, sometimes you might not have enough to be able to subtract. You might have to borrow a whole from one of the whole numbers. And that's something we'll look at in another example. But again, this is just a review. This is not news. Can I simplify 2 and 3/8?
No.
It's already good, right? So there's our answer. Now I know that this is already written for us here, But when we're taking notes, it's good to write key things and show our work more so that we understand how we did it. All right, so now what I'd like for you to do is the quick check 1 through 7. You're going to do that on your own. So go ahead and pause the video, and when you come back, I'll have the answers for you for all 7, and you can check your work. Then I'm going to explain it, and if you didn't understand any of them, you can fast forward to the ones that you didn't understand. So go ahead and pause now. All right, please check your answers for 1 through 7. You can pause the video to check your answers. So now I'm going to go through each individual question so that you can check and see what you did incorrectly. So if you got any of them wrong, you'll want to skip to the questions that you got wrong. There's no reason to watch all of them if you have them all right, or if you just got number 7 wrong, there's no reason to watch all of them and wait for number 7 to come. You can fast forward hopefully on your device to be able to get to number 7 if that's the only one that you got wrong. If you had 4, 5, 6, and 7 wrong, then maybe that's something you need to look at, watch other videos on Google and see how you can help yourself with adding and subtracting with fractions, because again, this is just a review. All right, for number 1, we have 7 times 7 times 7. So we would do 7 times 7, which is 49, and then multiply that times 7. We get 63, carry the 6. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 4 is 34. So 343 is our answer for number 1. Number 2, we have 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 times 2, which is 8. That one is kind of an easy one. I hope you all got that one right. Now the next one, 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. I'm going to group this like I did when I first started. I'm going to do 9 times 9, which I know is 81. And I'm going to do 9 times 9 again, which I again know is 81. And now I'm going to do 81 times 81. You can certainly do 9 times 9, which is 81, 81 times 9, and then that answer times 9. It's completely up to you. I just like getting the mental math ones done and then multiplying the ones that are harder here. So 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 8 is 8. I'm going to do my little star to hold indent over. 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 8 is 64. So then I have 1, 16, that's 5, that's 6. So 6,561. Number 4, adding, subtracting with fractions, we need common denominators. So my common denominator for number 4 is going to be tenths. You could have used 20ths, 40ths. There's a lot of things you could have used, but 10 is the least common multiple, and that's what we like to go with. So for our common denominator, I use 10. To go from 5 to get to 10, I'm going to multiply times 2. When I do the bottom, I do the top. So 4 times 2 is 8. Then for 1/2, I went from 2 to 10 by multiplying times 5. When I do the bottom, do the top, and 1 times 5 is 5. And I hope that you know that 5/10 is the same as 1/2. So now we know that the denominator is going to stay the same. We subtract the numerators, and we get 3/10. For number 5, 8/9 and 2/3. Hopefully you noticed that 9 would be a great common denominator because that's the first thing we need to figure out. The common denominator, the least common multiple. That's going to be 9. So my 8/9 stayed the same. To go from 3 to get to 9, I multiplied times 3. So when I do the bottom, I do the top. And this ends up being 14/9 or 1 5/9. Either answer would be fine. Number 6, of course, we have mixed numbers like we did in our original example. I'm glad they gave us an example like this one. Hopefully you're paying very close attention to this because this one was a tricky one. We needed to find a common denominator for tenths and sixths. And so I would think 30 would be the best common denominator. So I'm going to keep my whole numbers here, and I'm going to change my 1/10 to 30ths, which is times 3 times 3. And then I'm going to take my 5/6, and I'm going to make that into 30ths, and that's going to be times 5 times 5. So I get 25/30ths. So hopefully you followed along with that. So now 3 1/10 is 3 3/30ths. And 2 5/6 is now 2 25/30ths. So I know when I'm going to subtract this that I'm ultimately going to do the 3/30 minus 25/30. Hopefully you see right now that's not really going to work out for us. So I'm going to need to borrow from this 3 and make it a 2. And when I'm borrowing in the term of 30ths, I'm going to be borrowing 30/30ths and adding it to 3. So 30 plus 3 is 33. So now we have 33/30ths minus 25/30ths, which is 8/30ths. And we do 2 minus 2, which is 0. So at first my answer was going to be 8/30ths, but we need to have it in simplest form. So to put this into simplest form, I'm going to divide top and bottom by 2, because they're both even, so at least I know that's going to work. And I get 4/15. So my answer is 4/15. So I think that the biggest difficulty here that you had to come over was understanding that this was going to be 33/30. And again, this is a review, but this was a more complicated problem with subtracting mixed numbers. So number 7 was also a pretty complicated one. It says, what fraction more of the coupon books did Jabbar sell than Guto? So here's the thing. We're only going to be talking about Guto and Jabbar. All right? So I want to figure out how much more Jabbar sold than Guto. So I'm going to be subtracting 2/15 minus 1/12. Oh, well, okay. That's great, except that now I need to find a common denominator. Remember that with our common denominators, the least common multiple is what we want. So if we're thinking about our multiples of 12 and 15, I always take the biggest number and I figure out those common multiple, or the multiples for that. So 15, 30, okay, still doesn't work with 12. 45 does not work with 12. 60 though does work with 12. So I know that 60 is going to be the number that I'm going to change these to. So let's see if I can find a color that'll show up here. So I'm going to use 60 as my denominator, and I'm going to make this from 15 to 60 is multiplying times 4. When I do the bottom, I do the top, and so I've got 8/60ths. And then to go from 12 to get to 60, it's times 5. When I do the bottom, I do the top. And so my answer is 3/60ths. Now, this is not simplified because 3 goes into 60 evenly. So we're going to divide top and bottom by 3. And our answer is 1/20th. So the answer to this question of what fraction more of the coupon books did Jabbar sell than Guto? It was 1/20th more. Okay, and that was the end. All right, guys, I hope that you got all the answers that you needed from this and understand how to work these out. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask me in class. Have a great day. Bye-bye.